welcome to Latest TV. So tell me, what does BARCO stand for and what inspired you to set up this organisation?
Well, thanks for having me. So BARCO is an acronym. It stands for Black Anti-Racism Community Organisation. And we do our work here in Brighton and Hove and the surrounding areas. What inspired me to start it? So it's not just me, first of all. There's a number of people involved in the organisation as trustees and volunteers. I've long had an ambition to bring a carnival-style event to the city.
Amazing.
You know, as a child, going to Notting Hill Carnival has always been an inspiration to me. And, you know, at the core of that, there's, you know, a really positive and friendly way to share Black culture with the wider community. So, you know, that ambition's always been there. Started speaking to some friends to see how we could make that happen. And the George Floyd incident happened and kind of shifted our focus away from, you know, just putting on a performative event to, you know, in the time of need, where is there a support system for Black people in Brighton and Hove? And here we are.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's well needed in the city. I mean, I've been living in Brighton for 20 plus years, and like yourself, I go up to Notting Hill Carnival and to London to experience, you know, and celebrate my own culture. So this is really fantastic and exciting. So what does BARCO do on a day-to-day basis? Like what sort of projects are you running at the moment? What are you exploring as an organisation?
So we're a community interest company. We're made up completely of volunteers, which is a challenge in itself. And I think the first thing to point out is, you know, we try and help where we're asked to help. And of course that will have its limitations, you know, based on what we can do as volunteers. What we really want to impact is positive change in the city for Black people that live here, work here, study here, and just generally visit the city.
Sure.
That's kind of where we want to have an impact as an organisation. As I mentioned before, our focus has shifted slightly, but we're still very much first and foremost about events and bringing Black events to Brighton and Hove to share Black culture with the wider community.
Fantastic. Now, in 2020, Brighton Hove City Council made a pledge to become an anti-racist city. And I understand that your organisation has been working with councillors and directors internally and externally to support them with their initiative. What's that been like? How's it been working with councillors, directors, and also exploring the anti-racist pledge, which is a huge pledge, obviously, for the council, which is a predominantly not a diverse council at all, predominantly white. How has that been for you as an organisation coming in to work with these experts in our city?
Eventful, challenging, emotional, draining. You know, lots of emotions come to mind when speaking about that work. We weren't asked, you know, we put ourselves forward. And, you know, the first kind of line of communication with the council started with challenging, you know, what are you doing about these issues that are here in Brighton and Hove? You know, there's been some good conversations. We've been involved in some good pieces of work. Again, sometimes we're asked, sometimes we show up, so to speak. What's important for us is that there is a Black voice. And what we're trying to do is be involved in decision making, try and be involved in policy change and process, you know, and just make sure that what we're doing is making that road easier for Black people.
Sure. And there are obviously people in our community that would still question whether racism is even a problem or a thing in our society. How do you as an organisation tackle such ignorance, really, and divisive public debates when approaching the anti-racist pledge and racism within our community genuinely?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. You're always going to have differences of opinion. That's life. And by no means are we saying that everybody needs to have the same opinion as us. I think it's really important that everyone respects one another's opinion. But there's a line there that needs to be drawn. There's a lot of people that are challenging whether racism exists, and unfortunately, those people have no lived experience. It is a difficult conversation for many people, but I think what's important is that we, as a community, as a society, remember that we're all human beings. We all want to strive for the same things in life. Why do we need to go about it in such an ugly way?
Sure.
When you break it down to the core things, you do get a lot of common sense out of people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of figures out there that rile people up, and they use their platform in not a positive way, unfortunately. Us as an organisation, we try not to give those individuals oxygen.
Sure.
We try not to let their opinions interfere with our objectives and goals and where we're trying to get to. We're very much about positivity and progression, and we don't like to kind of get involved in tit for tat and those kinds of things. So what we're doing is just about spreading the love and making sure that we're continuing to be a support system for Black people in the city.
So going back to cultural diversity in our city, which arguably for many years has been overlooked but is well needed and important. And you mentioned that one of your initiatives is to host a carnival. Tell me a little bit more about that, Bud. What would that look like in the city? Would it be like Notting Hill, for example? Tell me more about your carnival initiatives.
Okay, I think the first thing to point out is, Brighton as a city is a great place to have a carnival, and we have a blueprint in Pride as a great example to follow on. Brighton is often labelled as a very accepting community and city, and a lot of that is true. I think one of the things that we look at when we think about Brighton is diversity. I wouldn't want to take that away from the reputation of the city. It's absolutely true, but there is some work to do to as we say, improve the lives and experiences of Black people. For us, the carnival is always going to be a progression. We're not going to hit the streets this summer and match a scale event, similar to Pride. We know we've got to build. We know we've got to, do it step by step. So last year we put on our first event that was held at St. Peter's Square, which was really successful, and we had a short window to kind of turn that around. So we were really happy with how things went, and it was a platform for a number of local Black artists and performers to be able to showcase their talents in the city that they don't necessarily always get in a public platform.
Sure.
So we were really happy and proud that was achieved. We're now working on this year's event, and there's a few challenges. There's a lot in the calendar this year for as far as Brighton events go. Finding a home is also a challenge, and where we have the ambition one day to have a parade, have an actual carnival through the streets.
Sure.
Of course, that throws up a number of challenges as well. So we're taking it step by step. We're working on this year's event. It's called the BARCO Bash, and we're just trying to build on what we did last year and make it a better event this year.
Brilliant. And if our viewers wanted to find out more information about the BARCO Bash, where would they go to find out more details about that, Bud? So
we have a website, which is brighton-barco.org. We're on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. Check in on us, follow us, and any events and news that we have will be shared on those platforms.
Well, I'd highly recommend, because I was fortunate enough to attend your BARCO event last year at St. Peter's Church, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. I've never attended an event like that in the city. and, you know, to have, you know, the artists there performing that were absolutely amazing, access to different cultural foods, the music, it was amazing. And what I noticed is how much it attracted people that probably didn't even know about the event.
This is it.
And, you know, it's similar to Pride and other initiatives, really, isn't it? You know, people do like to celebrate cultural diversity, equality, inclusion in the city. And I think, you know, if you're providing that platform to people, there's a real opportunity to lead, make some noise. And obviously it helps our tourism and our business communities as well. So I think it's, I think you're doing a brilliant job, Bud. And I look forward to hearing more about the BARCO Bash.
Appreciate it.
We're going to take a break now. Stay with us, where I will continue my conversations with Bud on all the exciting events and initiatives that BARCO are working on for our city. Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Pryor, and today I'm here with Bud Johnston, who is co-founder of local CIC organisation BARCO, and we're here today to discuss all the amazing things that BARCO is achieving in this city and some of the plans for the future as well. Welcome back, Bud. Thank you for joining us on Latest TV. Now, just to start up with a little bit about yourself. So, you've lived in Brighton for a while. Would it be fair to say that you're a Brightonian?
Yeah, born and raised. Born up the road in Brighton Hospital. You know, I've had stints elsewhere. But yeah, born and raised, I am a true Brightonian.
And you know the city well.
I do.
In addition to that, you are very much a role model, I would say. You're a marketing director of a very successful and popular company called Rivervale in Brighton. Tell me a little bit about your role as a marketing director there.
Yeah, so, well, we're a motor trade organisation. I've been with the company 7 years now, and we're a leasing business by core, but do lots of other things within the motor trade organisation, within the motor trade industry. I've grown since I've been in that company. They're a great company to work for, and the company's grown since I've been there. So, yeah, fantastic place to work, great organisation, and yeah.
So you're a marketing director, and I also work in marketing as well. And one of the things that I love about it is it's a powerful communications tool, which, you know, very much can change or add value to our perceptions and our thoughts in society, really. Do you enjoy using your marketing experience, I suppose, to work with BARCO and market anti-racism? And how has that been as an initiative and process, really?
Yeah, I mean, getting involved in third sector and volunteer work, for me, it was two things. One, it was, you know, giving back. And two, it was, what can I give back? And the skill set that I've gathered through my job and working in marketing all these years, you know, I felt that was a valuable tool that I could give, and it's been really helpful. And that's kind of where I deliver for BARCO. That's the role that I've taken on. Of course, other people in our organisation are more focused on accounting, financing, budgeting, because that's their skill set. So we've come together as a collective, and we've all brought our individual skills to, you know, make this work.
Sure. And as marketing experts, we're both very aware of the power of networking. And I understand that BARCO have got some exciting initiatives coming up in terms of broadening the network within Brighton's community. Tell me a little bit more about that, Bud.
So I've been involved in many business networking events throughout my working life. And for all the good and bad about them, there's lots of bits and pieces that they do that have some real benefits to communities and the business communities.
Sure.
So taking that role model, we're looking to put something together for the black community. One of our objectives as BARCO is to provide a platform for black people in Brighton and Hove to be better connected. So a networking event seemed like an obvious route for us to go down, and it's something we're working on at the moment. That we'll be bringing to you very soon.
That sounds very exciting. Now, I've got two quite big questions for you, I suppose. What are your goals and objectives as an organisation? And what would that look like if that was achieved? And you can be as big or as small with your answer in terms of that.
We've got two that branch off into lots of other areas. The first one, as I touched on, is to provide a better platform for black people in the city to be better connected. We're not a big hub like a London, Manchester, Birmingham, etc., that has a recognised black community network, space, area, etc., etc. Brighton's very, very different for a black person and for the black community. We're spread out.
Sure.
So to be able to bring us together and share our experiences, our knowledge, our skills is something that we want to achieve and provide for the city. So that's our first objective, and that means we've got to work with lots of other organisations, that we need support from other communities and organisations, and continuing to do that is part and parcel of the everyday task that we have.
Sure.
The second objective, and is where we want to make sure that we instill enjoyment and fun into the work. You know, we're all volunteers. We're not getting paid for this. We all have full-time occupations, and we've got to fit this in. So that's about bringing events for the black community to enjoy black culture and share it with the wider community here. You know, we're not about having events that are just for black people. There is a time and place for that, and we deal with those as well. But the overall objective for us is to bring that black culture to the forefront and allow everyone in the wider community to learn and to enjoy black culture.
I think that's amazing, and really, you know, how things should be, you know, going forward. We want to unite, educate and celebrate, really, don't we?
Yeah, that's it.
Now, you've got some amazing trustees and co-founders that have been supporting your organisation. I mean, you're a very new organisation, but in many ways you've achieved quite a bit in a short period of time. Tell me a little bit about the makeup of your organisation. Who's involved?
Okay, so Robert Brown, he does a lot of work with youth engagement. He's done some work for the Arts Council. He's also an artist manager. So he's got his fingers in quite a few different pots. He's one of our trustees and co-founders. Vanessa Crawford, who is the founder of the BMEYPP. She's also one of our trustees. And then Annie Wilby, who many people will know as Aflo, the poet, is also one of our trustees. We then have a number of volunteers that work with us to help us put on our events, work with us for administrative roles. But yeah, we're lucky to have some really good, wholesome people involved in this organisation.
Yeah, some very powerful people within your organisation. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, what projects and platforms that you'll be working on in addition to what you're currently doing now. That's fantastic. And, you know, as we mentioned earlier, you're doing a lot of work internally with organisations like the council and externally, but I would assume that you're doing a lot of work with other organisations as well, other community organisations. Do you work with the police at all, or any other institutions? And how is that? Because you know, tackling racism within the community and uniting people, there's so many different sort of areas, I suppose, that have been previously divisive, slightly problematic, and one of the ways of sort of eliminating previous issues that our community has had is about sort of having conversations, I suppose, and bringing certain people to the table. How has that been for you as an organisation to lead on that?
Yeah, initially our ambitions were quite broad, and we wanted to touch base, converse and challenge quite a number of industries and organisations where racism was prevalent, police being one of them. And we got involved with those. We got stuck in. After 12 months, we regrouped. What we found and what we experienced was a lot of drain, a lot of emotional trauma, and unfortunately a lot of doors that just wouldn't open for us. So we've refocused that we want to concentrate on our events and the enjoyment and learning through enjoyment and, you know, positive vibes, because it was a real challenge for us as a young organisation to A, be recognised and B, be heard. Because a number of these issues, the recognition and acceptance of institutional racism is quite a new thing. It's only in the last 2 years that's actually become a conversation that the wider community are willing to acknowledge.
Sure, and it's not an easy conversation to have either.
It's not an easy conversation. So it's been difficult, and what we realised is as volunteers we need to protect ourselves as well.
Sure.
We're not a big enough organisation to, have an arm in education, have an arm in police and crime, have an arm in healthcare, have an arm in employment, all these different areas where racism is apparent. It's very, very difficult for us to, have an input, an effective input in those spaces. So we've drawn it right back, and we're focusing on the enjoyment and learning through enjoyment and through having those events.
Well, I think that's a fantastic place to start, really, isn't it? Starting with a positive message, I suppose, and celebrating cultural diversity in the city. Well, it's been amazing to talk with you, Bud. Very interesting, and I'm so inspired by the assertiveness and the determination of your organisation. If anyone like myself would like to support your organisation, find out more about the events that you're running, where can we go to, Bud, to find out more about BARCO?
So you can go to our website, which is brighton-barco.org. We're active on Instagram and Facebook, and all contact details for us are on there. Follow us, stay tuned, and see what we've got coming up.
Most definitely. Keep the momentum going. Thank you so much for coming today. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.